Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video, we're going to be looking at the research in the salary increases when changing jobs, guys. So this is a really cool breakdown. When you think of your position, could you possibly do the same job at a different company and earn a lot more money? It is really the American dream, guys. We know statistics do say if you've been at your job for roughly 3 years, that is right, guys. Think of a minute of how long you have been at your current position or at your current job. 3 years is really the break point of, with the experience that you have obtained within those 3 years, going to a different location or going to a competitor to earn more money. Now, changing jobs can be a very uncertain endeavor. You really have to compare apple to apples when it comes to medical benefits, when it comes to 401k, retirement benefits, things of that nature. Make sure you are comparing it before you do make the switch. You may feel stuck in your current position because your doubtability of landing a new job. Now, even with the market, everything going on, a lot of different companies laying off individuals, there are still an incredible amount of companies out there that are still hiring. The truth is that most people receive a salary when they switch jobs, which is a pretty consistent increase. Those who stay in the same place for more than 3 years actually tend to make less than if they went somewhere else. So what is the average raise in 2023? We're going to go ahead and break that down, guys. After extensive research, it is really concluded the average salary increase when changing a job is 14.8%. That is right, guys. Almost 15% of changing a job. Again, most of the time it is in a similar field, but now you do have years of experience. So think about your raises. Think about the last couple of years. When is the last time you got a 15% raise from your employer? Probably never. That is probably the honest truth, guys, that you have never seen a 15% increase in raise, short of possibly getting a promotion within the company. Well, the average wage increase is 5.8%. So again, that is something to really think about. Now, I work in the financial industry. When I worked on the banking side, the average raise was 1 to 1.5%, which was multiple years with the same financial institution. We seen raises as low as really almost 0%. I once did give a person a 10-cent raise. That is right, guys. One more dime for an entire year of working, because that is how the numbers fell according to HR. But again, when you look at your position, the average wage growth is 5.8%, which again is pretty interesting. So which areas did we see the biggest increases? The resource and mining industry had the highest wage increase of almost 12%, guys. That is right, guys. That is almost a 12% raise per year is the average in resource and mining. I know a lot of people do not want to do that anymore. It is kind of a job that is really hard, physically demanding. Big shout out to all of the miners out there, guys, that still actually go down in caves. It's kind of crazy to see if you've watched any specials or anything of that nature. Now, leisure and hospitality is the only industry in the United States that we've seen a negative average wage growth. That is right, guys. They have actually lost money. If you've checked out my video about the tipping and how tipping is kind of out of control, this is one of the big reasons when you look at some of these industries where wages have continued to increase for most people in an average 9-to-5 job with a base wage, where when it comes to the tipping industry, they have kept it relatively the same or zero increase when it comes, again, to a couple of different industries. You're not quite seeing the increase. Now, those between the age of 25 to 34 have received the biggest average wage increase by changing jobs of roughly 10%. That is right, guys. If you're making $50,000 a year, you go to another job, they give you a 10% raise. That is a pretty decent increase for doing the exact same job. The competitors, of course, are always looking for experience. And if you're in an industry, you can move relatively easy. Bigger companies also offered bigger raises. Companies with more than 1,000 employees offered an average pay raise of 6.9%. That is right, guys. We are looking at 2023. So we know inflation has been kind of crazy. So you can't really compare this again to a couple other years, because with the price of inflation and with the increase that we've seen of wages, we have also seen a very, very consistent increase to the average pay, which again, the average was 6.9%. Now, those living in the Northeast, which lucky for me, that is where I do live personally, can expect the highest pay raise when switching a job, which averaged about 8% of a pay raise for switching jobs. Now, one of the interesting statistics in here, women received a 0.09 more wage growth than men when changing job on average in 2023. That is right, guys. Even though the wage disparity is starting to finally close in, which I don't understand really the logic behind it, but men and women are starting to come together, and some industries are paying the same. We're starting to see that kind of go away a little bit, which again, it should have never been there in the first place. But women, the more wage growth really outpaced men for 2023 when they were changing jobs on average, which again, getting everything even keeled back kind of on the statistics. So let's break this down a little bit further, guys. So the average salary increase was 15%, but the average wage growth was only 6%. Well, many people achieve their increased expected salary of 10 to 20% when they go to a new job. The overall wage growth is much lower. So if I'm moving over to another position in the same industry, I get a 15% raise. After that, it might be 3 to 5% for the next coming years, because they started me on a higher level of the salary. Now, similar to a lot of different companies, guys, they take industry averages into effect, where you have kind of a lower spectrum, a middle where they kind of keep the bulk of employees for a position based on the salary range, and then a higher end. So what happens is, if you're on the lower end of the spectrum, you are going to see much higher raises. That way you can kind of get up to that kind of midpoint is what we've seen. If you're on the higher side of the salary for a certain position, majority of the time on that side, you will actually have a much smaller raise every single year to try to keep you again more towards the median or that midpoint for the position that you have or that you're actually working. Wage growth for job switchers is 47% higher than those who stay in their current job. That is right, guys. Wage growth for those who switch is 5.8%. Numbers who stay in their job is roughly 3%. Doesn't seem like a lot on paper, but those who stay in the current job are essentially seeing half of the wage growth, then going to another job, which again, all the more reason to switch your employer. Now, the wage growth for job switchers has risen 0.68% since 2020. So we're seeing a increase in the wage growth. Overall employment growth is up 11.6% since 2020. We know 2020, of course, was the pandemic, guys. As a total, the employee growth has went up 3.5%. And the average wage level for job switchers is $30.37. That is right, which is kind of crazy. Which, again, the sad part that they really note in this article is when you look at people who are earning $3.66 or less, so you're looking at your tipped employees, there has been barely any movement at all with their hourly salary. Just means that if you're not tipping more, or to keep up with inflation, to keep up with the cost of living, to keep up with everything else, it is incredibly hard for non-salaried or hourly employees that are based on the tipping or the commission based. So conclusion, guys, overall, if you've been with your job the last 3 years, chances are you are losing money than going over to another job. Plus, aside from the jobs in leisure and hospitality, you're almost guaranteed, based on experience, to see some form of salary increase, regardless of your industry, regardless of the company size, gender, or your age. You are still going to see an increase when it comes to your salary for moving into a new position, and then also the wage growth that does come with it. All right, guys, so that'll do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and as always, thank you guys for watching.